Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It is Monday. It's the start of another week. I hope you're well wherever you're watching or listening to this round the world. It is the day after Arsenal's 2-2 draw at Anfield, of course, in the Premier League. Just 2 games remaining of this long old season, I have to say. And I'm guessing most of you will feel exactly the same way. And I'm pretty sure everyone at Arsenal, players, coaching staff, manager, all feel the same way. And that's they cannot wait for this season to be over and just to be able to reset, recharge the batteries and get ready to go again, because it's feeling like a bit of a slog now. But they did, fair play to them, come back and get a really good point at Anfield yesterday. Not that it pleased the manager, mind you, which we're going to talk about in today's show. Really, really interesting, I think, Mikel Arteta's reaction to yesterday's game in the post-match interviews and the press conference that he did. So we're going to talk about that. We'll go over the game, go over my player ratings for all of you who didn't see it in yesterday's sort of immediate post-match reaction show that I did. Got some reaction from you guys, of course, as well, and plenty of other bits and pieces to get stuck into. And it was just a really, really interesting game. Obviously, as I spoke about yesterday, a game of 2 halves, no doubt about it. Arsenal really, really poor. Well, I say really, really poor in the first half, and they were, obviously, but they actually started pretty well, and they should have been in front. You know, Bukayo Saka missed a chance that 9 times out of 10 he scores, but he put it wide from the free kick. And even after that, there were a couple of sort of half chances for Arsenal. The time when Thomas Partey pressed really well and took the ball off, I can't even remember who it was, one of the Liverpool players. And then suddenly there was 3 Arsenal players around the edge of the penalty area, and they all just sort of stood there and waited for one of them to do something. And by the time I think Trossard took control of the situation, the chance had gone and Liverpool got players back. So there were opportunities there for Arsenal to actually get themselves into the lead early on, but they didn't take them. And then obviously the game just kind of changed, and Arsenal went to sleep, and they got picked off by Liverpool. 2 goals in quick succession from Gakpo and Diaz. Really, really poor defending. The type of goals that just you kind of look at and you wince and you put your hands over your face and don't want to see again, because they're just so poor defensively. The type of goals you don't really see Arsenal score as well. And I think when we get to what Mikel Arteta said afterwards, obviously this period of the game, this sort of defending, was where his anger came from, no doubt about it, because Arsenal just looked a bit, I don't know, unprofessional, which is a word you don't really describe with Arsenal very much, because even when they don't play that well, they're always kind of professional and solid and difficult to beat and all those sort of things. But in this period yesterday, they just looked like a team that was absolutely done, you know, knackered emotionally, physically, mentally drained, and they just couldn't really deal with what Liverpool were doing and the speed of movement that Liverpool was showing. And there was just gaping holes everywhere across the penalty area, across the back 4, across the midfield, and you know, Liverpool were running riot. And the fact Arsenal got in just 2 goals down, I think, was the only kind of positive from that first half. David Raya made a really good save, of course, to keep it just at 2-0. It saved well from Diaz earlier on as well. And you kind of looked at it at half time and just thought, just don't lose 4 or 5. Just please don't lose 4 or 5 in the second half. And I certainly wasn't expecting what I saw in the second half. Fair play to Arsenal for the way they came back and the fight that they showed. Arteta obviously absolutely hammered them at half time. I think his post-match comments sort of shed a sort of light on how he was at half time. He was not happy at all from what he saw from his team. And he would have made that, I imagine, abundantly clear in that in that half time team talk. And whatever he said, whatever he did, clearly it got a response, because Arsenal were really good in the second half. They came out flying. It was a very similar sort of start to the second half to what we'd seen in the first half at Paris Saint-Germain on Wednesday. They were all over Liverpool. They were winning the ball back constantly in and around the penalty area. They scored through Martinelli's header. Nice little ball in from Trossard. Good movement from Martinelli. And those two had sort of switched round. You had Martinelli playing more centrally, Trossard playing on the left-hand side. You had Ben White clearly playing a lot higher up, kind of like Timber played in the first half against PSG. And it was causing Liverpool all sorts of problems. Now, they got the goal. They went close. Ben White had one shot that was saved. There was other sort of half chances. And then they got the equaliser when Odegaard just took a shot on, thumping effort. Good save by Alisson onto the post, but there was Marino to head home, and it was 2-2. And you kind of looked at it at that point and thought, you know what, I think Arsenal might win this, because they suddenly had the momentum. Liverpool were looking a bit all over the place, but then the red card happened with kind of 15 minutes to go, whatever it was. And that just changed things completely. You know, I know Arsenal had the chance late on when Odegaard broke and he put the shot just wide. Maybe he could have played in Zinchenko rather than taking a shot on, but it's hard to criticise him for taking a shot on when for the last 3 months we've all sat here and moaned that he doesn't take enough shots on. And he put that one just wide. But other than that, you know, after the red card, it was all one-way traffic. Liverpool, Arsenal sort of sitting deep, looking to protect what they had. And Liverpool had a couple of half chances. They had the one that was ruled out correctly for a foul right at the end, which would have been awful if they'd have conceded then and lost that game. But it was fair play to Anthony Taylor. I think Mourinho couldn't have any complaints with the red card. It was a sort of lunge and tackle. Yes, he maybe could have been given sort of a free kick for him just earlier when there was a bit of a shove in his back. But even so, you know, when that doesn't come, you don't really need to lunge in the way he did. And I think he was really, really tired, Mourinho. I thought Arteta should have taken him off. There was a sort of 5, maybe 10 minutes building up to that red card where every time the camera zoomed in on Mourinho, even before he scored the equaliser, actually, you just thought of all the players, he looks absolutely done, like really tired. And he probably should have come off, especially the fact he was on a yellow card, but Arteta kept him on. And now that's going to represent a problem for next week. And we'll talk about that as the week progresses. But Arsenal clearly have an issue or something they're going to have to try and solve in attack next week because there's no Mourinho through suspension. I doubt there's going to be any Leandro Trossard because of the injury he picked up yesterday, which looked like a hamstring. So I imagine he's out for the rest of the season. Declan Rice, we've got to wait and see what happens with him. Of course, he missed yesterday. And so you're looking really, really short in an attacking sense for Arsenal and physical sense as well, which is a real shame against a team like Newcastle. But it's the story of the season, isn't it? You're going to have to deal with it. But we will talk about that a little bit later on as we get through the week. And it was just a really weird game to try and sum up because for so much of that first half, Arsenal just looked so far off it. And then for the second half, they just transformed and played really, really well. And on the back of a really difficult week, again, sort of all of with everything combined, the emotional state of the players after losing to PSG, the mental side of things, having lost to PSG and then going to the home of the champions, having to do the guard of honor type thing and having, you know, the fans on your back constantly and all the build up and the narrative around that. And then the physical toll as well, of course, of playing in midweek when Liverpool didn't have to play, then you had to travel to Anfield. To do what they did in the second half, I think deserves an awful lot of credit. I thought it was really, really impressive the way they came back. But I mean, as Sea-Lord here has got in touch and says, be good to get your reaction to Arteta's post-game interviews, Charles, because for me, the reaction to him has been so weird. I actually like the fact that he didn't like the first half performance, didn't blame the injuries, didn't ask about, despite being asked about them a lot, and spoke about us needing to look at what we can do about not being down to 10 men. I actually think it came across well in the press conference particular. So yeah, I'm sure you've all seen it. It's not just one interview, it was the post-game stuff and the TVs, and then he went into the press conference as well and was really, really angry, really, really angry. Like I was surprised, I have to say. I thought he was quite good, to be fair. What he had to say, like Sea-Lord says there, you know, I thought he was very honest about what he saw in the first half, and he's obviously got very high standards, and the players didn't live up to those standards in the first half, and he was clearly not happy about that, and he's every right to express those feelings. I was surprised, though, despite actually liking it, I was surprised because of the week the players had and what they'd been through, and then to come back and get a point the way they did. I thought he would just praise them in the second half. I thought it'd be like, yeah, we weren't good enough in the first half, but full credit to the players. You know, they showed a lot of fight, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. He went down a completely different route to what I was expecting. And when he was asked about, you know, why was the first half unacceptable, he says, lots of parts, especially the defending standards that we had and the areas that afterwards we gave the ball away, which is totally prohibited against this team, very far off it, really upset. We had a reaction, but I hate reaction. I like action. And especially want to be there winning trophies. You want to be in that moment that you win it or you don't, then you have to do it. After you have to play another game that you have to be working on for 9 months, and that's here today. And if you cannot win it, you have to be the best of the rest. And I was really, really upset. When he was asked on if the reaction makes up for the first half performance, he said, I think it makes it worse because you miss half the team again, and we've done it for 9 months. You're going still after 2-0 at Anfield, like any other team will do. We play the way that we play, come back. Maybe we should have won it, and at the end, maybe lose it again for something that was in our hands for sure, and having to play for the 6th time in a season with 10 men. We want to really win it, that consistency level for 95 minutes, and I don't like to talk about the players that are not hearing excuses. I'm disappointed. It's just I just found it really interesting that he decided to go down this route. He was then asked, have you got the how did you get a reaction out of the players? He said, whatever happens in the dressing room, it's going to stay there. It couldn't be much worse. It could be because this is football, or they could be more effective. But thankfully, we did in the second half what we are capable of doing, understanding as well. There are a lot of things that are against us at the moment. So yeah, I've I think Arteta, I said it earlier. I think everyone needs this season to end. I think Arteta's been very emotional the last couple of games. I think going out of the Champions League really hurt him. I think in his head he's struggling to deal with that a little bit right now. I think he knew that we had a really, really good chance of winning the Champions League this season, and we were really close, and things just didn't quite go our way against PSG. And I think that's taken its toll out of him emotionally as well. And I think he needs a reset as much as anyone this summer. And I think he's really disappointed that we have ended the. I mean, we're all really disappointed, but I think he's especially disappointed we've ended the season with nothing to show for it, because I think he knows that this team is good enough to win. And obviously, he knows that all eyes are on him now. If the team isn't winning, all eyes are on him, because I think we all know that the team's good enough to win something. Obviously, haven't been good enough in the league to win anything this year because they've been far too inconsistent, and the results have clearly shown that. And there's been too many draws. Yesterday was another one. But there is still enough in this team and enough in this squad to win trophies. And I think he knows that. And I think the Champions League really hurt him because he was looking at that competition this season. He was looking at our performances in it, how we've been playing, and he really felt there was an opportunity to win it. And I think that sort of emotion from him and the disappointment of him, I think we've really seen it in his interviews this week. We saw it immediately after the PSG game. I think we saw it a bit in his press conference on Friday as well, pre-match, and we definitely saw it here. I think it all sort of came out for him here. And yeah, I thought that was pretty glaringly obvious. Interesting to know what the players thought of it, because clearly he would have had a real go. And what we saw from them, the reaction we saw from them, suggests that they took everything on board that he said at halftime. And I imagine he's going to calm down now. And when he does calm down, he's going to look back at what we did in the second half, and he's going to be pleased with the response. But, he does set very high standards, and those standards weren't met yesterday. I think it was pretty obvious for that sort of 25-minute, 30-minute period in the first half. We were way off what we usually do defensively in midfield. It just was not there. There was holes everywhere. People weren't doing their jobs. People were switching off. When you look at the goals, the 2 goals they conceded, how poor they were. And he wasn't going to give them a pass. A lot of people would have given him a pass after the week that Arsenal had, but he wasn't. He looks at it and says he's got too high standards for that. You can't give him a pass even with disappointment. You've got to be able to do your job and be professional and do the basics. And he wasn't happy with that. So I've got no issue with it. I've really got no issue with it. I was just surprised. That was my sort of overriding emotion from sort of watching it afterwards. It was more surprise than anything else. But I have no issue with him taking his players to task. That's what he's there for. Just a quick one on Gabriel Martinelli. I thought he was excellent. Obviously, named player of the match yesterday. He was my man of the match as well. And I thought he played really, really well. And when I go back to the sort of injuries that Arsenal have and what they're going to have to try and work out how they're going to play against Newcastle and who plays where, Martinelli playing as that central striker in the second half yesterday, I thought made a real difference. He caused Konate and Van Dijk all sorts of problems with his movement. The high line they were trying to play, they couldn't really do that anymore. I think they're a little bit unsure how to play against Arsenal because of his movement. I think we saw the best out of Martin Odegaard when he suddenly had this sort of lively runner ahead of him. And I thought Odegaard was really, really good in that second half with Martinelli ahead of him. So I would definitely be playing Martinelli up front against Newcastle. I don't think there's any other option either because there's no Mourinho. There's going to be no Trossard. What else do you do? Do you maybe Ethan Nwaneri? But, Nwaneri seems to be in the doghouse for whatever reason. I have no idea why, but he doesn't seem to be getting any minutes at the moment. So I'd be very surprised if that is an option that Arteta takes. So I think it's more likely that you're going to see Martinelli up front and then, I don't know, Kieran Tierney on the left side of the attack or Raheem Sterling. I think I'd probably prefer Tierney to Sterling, I have to say. And then you're probably going to have to play Zinchenko in midfield if Declan Rice doesn't make it. It's probably going to have to be Partey, Zinchenko and Odegaard behind them. That's not exactly ideal against this very highly physical Newcastle team. You'd much rather have Declan Rice involved. But I think it's very important for me anyway. I think Martinelli needs to keep that position that he showed yesterday. Maybe when you look at Newcastle's defenders as well, I think that might cause them a bit of more of an issue as well, having that sort of pacey runner going through the central areas. So fair play to him. I thought he was very good. As I said, he was my man of the match. I've just run through my ratings here. I gave Martinelli an 8 out of 10. I went Raya as a 7, White 6, Saliba 6, Kivior 5, Lewis Skelly 7, Partey 7, Odegaard 7, Marino 7, Saka 7, Trossard 7, Martinelli 8. I thought it was a really hard game to actually rate the players because, as I said, first half was so poor, or that sort of 25-minute, 30-minute period was so poor. But then the players turned it round in that second half. You look at, Saka, for example, I thought was much, much better in the second half, really came alive. Trossard, I thought was as well. Martinelli, I thought was bright in both halves, but especially the second half. Ben White really, really struggled early on in the first half, I thought, but he grew into the game massively in the second half and ended it really strongly, which is surprising because I thought it'd be the other way around because Ben White, we know, is searching for fitness at the moment, but he turned what was looking like a 4 out of 10 performance into a 6 out of 10 performance with that second half. Lewis Skelly, I thought, was good against Salah. It was a really good battle the whole game. Saliba, really sketchy at times, really sketchy at times for the goals, but then sort of one-on-one situations, I thought he was really strong at times as well. And so yeah, it was a tough game to mark, I thought. But Martinelli was my man of the match with 8 out of 10. Right, moving on to some of your comments and questions now. Charlie here has gone in touch from the Discord on Patreon. And again, if you haven't signed up to Patreon yet, you can find the link down below. There is an option there if you go over to the Discord, which you get access to if you join up as a paid member of the Inside Arsenal Patreon, then you can go in. There's an option there on one of the chats to leave messages for Inside Arsenal in the show. You do that, I'll pull them in and get them included in the show. Charlie has done exactly that, and he says, "Hi Charles, just wondering what your view is on the Sky broadcast yesterday. The knives were clearly sharpened, and it was very odd to see how over the top the opinions were. Almost like it was instructed by the bosses. Rice might leave, and Arteta might be replaced. Things that those in and around the club know sound like nonsense. I guess my question is, why do you think the media and these pundits or ex-players are so anti-Arsenal? Haven't seen anything like this for any other team this season. There've certainly been some areas to discuss." Yeah, I did think it was really over the top, the stuff yesterday. I just think Sky Sports has gone so far down the sort of rage baiting wormhole, and I don't think they're really going to get out of it. I was looking at News Now today, which for those of you, I'm sure plenty of you know the News Now website. I was looking on the Arsenal page of News Now, which draws in stories and everything like that from all across, publications from everywhere. And so many of them this morning started with Jamie Carragher says. And I was just looking at that and thinking, how is that happening? Why is so many stories for national newspaper websites starting with Jamie Carragher says? Why is that a thing to do with Arsenal? But yet, it's just the way football media seems to operate now. And, the Rice one especially, I just couldn't believe that conversation even happened. I actually turned off at that point. I couldn't watch it. I was like, what on earth is this conversation happening for pre-match on the Sky Sport? Why are you talking about Declan Rice's future? He's only been at the club 2 years. I just thought it was really, really ridiculous. I don't know if it's a case of we just feel it more because we're Arsenal fans. When you say I don't know if we haven't seen this with any other team this season, I don't know if that's really the case or if it's just that we notice it more because we're Arsenal fans. So whenever, I think if you could speak to Spurs fans maybe or Man United fans, and they'd probably say exactly the same thing. To be fair, they're 16th and 17th in the Premier League, so they deserve to have awful lot of fingers being pointed at the moment. Arsenal are second in the Premier League. It's not like they're having an absolute disaster and could potentially have got relegated if you didn't have 3 of the worst teams the Premier League ever seen in it. So maybe it is just that we feel it a little bit more, but because we're Arsenal. But ultimately, I think you just got to let it try and wash over you and not let it bother you too much, because who cares what Jamie Carragher and Gary Neville says, to be honest. A few more here now from the regular Inside Arsenal channel. Adam says, Raya cooked Mourinho with that pass. Martinelli down the middle looked nice. Odegaard starting to get power into his work again. Yeah, the Raya pass into Mourinho, I've seen a few people pointing that out. Maybe it wasn't the greatest of passes from him. And it did play Mourinho into a little bit of trouble, but Mourinho was sort of showing for the ball. That is kind of how Arsenal play and how they're asked to play. But yeah, maybe that was a situation where Raya could have just gone long rather than playing it into Mourinho. What's that? I can't even pronounce that name. I'm not sure what it is. Sorry. Let's just go with Di. Hey, Charles, that Arteta press conference was cash money. So brutally honest. People think that they have higher standards than him. Crazy. Glad to see Gabby down the middle. Can't believe it's taken so long. That's truly where he belongs. I will say, though, I thought the side were brave again in that second half. I'm not sure Arteta matched them. Again, I have to see Tierney come on before Ethan when we need a goal. Why? That's so demoralising. And I also agree Mourinho should have come off earlier. He looked absolutely dead out there. Yeah, it's interesting with Ethan. I don't quite know why his minutes have really dropped off recently. I was surprised again, but we'll see what happens against Newcastle. Ian there says, lads did well not to drop their heads today. It's easy to write the game off at 2-0 down at Liverpool, draw that game shows they're still playing for each other, the manager and the fans. Got a few more here. Steve says, Carragher has been a disgrace tonight. I've seen countless clips of him spouting absolute tripe about Saliba being crap, Rice wanting to leave. The board will sack Arteta. It's driving me mad. How does Sky still employ this clown? This is from Paul. Going under the name Skin Beautiful, but it's Paul Davis, not the ex-Arsenal player, he points out. Says, hi, Charles. How good did Martinelli look in the middle? Brilliant. His runs were superb. Great movement to lose his marker for his goal. Took it superbly. Why didn't we play him there a few months ago? Marty made for Odegaard to find him through with through balls too. Cheers. And Noah says, Martinelli does not get enough credit. Yes, he's had a down season, but he has 10 goals and 5 assists, supports his left back, which has again been a changing cast, while again dealing with constant change at left A. I agree. I've said it plenty of times. I do think Arsenal need another option on that side. They need to sign someone to come in and help share the burden, all that sort of stuff. But, Gabriel Martinelli is still a very good player and his numbers back that up. There's not many when you look around left wingers, certainly, that score the sort of goals that Martinelli does, even on a down season, again, into double figures. So, I think he deserves credit as well and does get a little bit of unfair negativity around him. That's it from me this morning, everyone, for Monday. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening again. Please do sign up to the Patreon. Hopefully going to be recording the first new exclusive of a series of shows that I'm going to start doing on Patreon, myself and a couple of guests. It's going to be a regular thing from this point onwards, which should give you lots of great insight into Arsenal behind the scenes, what's going on. And it should be a good new series starting, which will be Patreon only. So, if you want to see the first episode of that, hopefully it'll be coming this week, but you do need to sign up to Patreon to be a part of it. And the link is down below in the description. It's on my socials as well. Until then, have a great day, everyone. I will speak to you soon. Bye-bye.